So when I started this, I had no idea what I was doing, as you can probably tell, but I had such a clear vision in my head of what I wanted to make, so I kept trying. I think I might have ended up having a 1-hour trial and error session with just this one car. But finally I managed to get it right, and I was really happy at this point because now that I'd figured everything out, I could actually start adding stuff. You can tell I was still in a testing phase here, judging by the hideous icons and lack of names. But don't worry, I soon rectified that by shoving crusty PNG images onto it. Before fully committing, I wanted to make sure everything was perfect, so when I add all the cars, I don't have to go back through and change stuff. So I made sure they had the right sized hitbox rather than just a regular block sized one. And I say I wanted to make sure it was all perfect before adding loads of cars, but you know I ended up having to go through over 100 cars and change one little thing multiple times. If you've been paying any attention so far, you probably noticed that the cars look disgusting. For some reason, all of the textures were just really dark. And not the game, I mean the actual texture images. So I ended up just manually increasing the brightness on each one, and then that was fine. Just look how much of a difference it made. Can you guess which one hasn't been done yet? I eventually reached a point where I had a fair amount of cars, but no way to get them in survival. And my whole idea for this mod from the beginning was that it's about collecting choro cues. So my plan was that you find an ore, and it drops this little cue item. And basically, the way you get the cars is, you combine this item with an empty box. That turns it into a special box, which when you right click, drops a random car. It wouldn't be choro cue without some form of gambling. Every car has the exact same chance of dropping from a box, so if you get a load of the same one in a row, then that is just bad luck. Obviously I had to get rid of those terrible icons. All I did was shrink them down to 32 by 32, and then it looked alright. It kinda had the same style as just a regular Minecraft item, but you can still make out what each car is. You may have noticed the box was called Common Box, and that's because I wanted to make some of the cars different rarities. They're just named after the rarities already in Minecraft. You make them all the same way, and of course each one of these cues has its own ore, but I'll show you more about that later. You can also convert the cues to the previous levels just by putting them in the crafting table. And here it gives you 9 of the previous ones, which is just insane, and I did end up changing. It also works the other way, where if you put 9 of a certain one in there, then it will give you 1 of the next one. If you hadn't already noticed, these models are from Choro Q3. And basically, first of all, I just had to customize each car to what colour I wanted it to be, the parts on it, and all that. And then using DuckStation 3D Screenshot, it just dumps the model and the textures into a folder. Then I just put it in Blender, adjust all the dimensions and stuff, which I made a note of from the first car so that they're all identical. Once it was in the right place, I just had to triangulate the faces and then it was ready to export. The reason I'm showing this car specifically is because I actually edited the texture for this one, since I do actually have a Choro Q Honda Civic, but in the game you can't make it look like mine does because mine has a carbon bonnet, so I just did it manually. And I actually ended up doing this for a couple of cars, one being the reward for collecting every single one. But no spoilers! Anyway, I think the Civic turned out pretty good. Just a nice little reference to a real one I own. I put a few little references in this mod, like to my channel and other Choro Q games and just other games in general. I really wanted a nice compact way to display the cars, and I realised that because of the way the grid placement system in Minecraft works, you couldn't put a trapdoor down as a shelf or anything if there was already a car there. And of course you don't want to have a block above it, because that's just going to look horrible. So I did find a workaround. I'm not very proud of it, but it works. Essentially, I just made shelf blocks that when you place them, they appear one block ahead of where you place it. So if you place it in front of the cars, it'll appear as if it's above them and look like a shelf for the next row. And don't worry, I made corners too. Come on, look at this and tell me you don't want to make an entire building and just fill it with Choro Qs. I might have got a bit carried away when I was making the shelves. But who wouldn't want to display their Choro Qs on a raw granite shelf? Crafting the shelves is pretty simple. It's just one slab to make a normal one, and then put a shelf in the corner of 2 slabs, and that'll make a corner one. Up until here, I'd only been using models from Choro Q3, but I really wanted to add the new beetle from Choro Wonderful. You'll see why in a bit. But yeah, for some reason, the car models in Wonderful had 5 times the amount of textures I was used to. Being from a completely different game, all of the dimensions I was using were completely off for this car, so I just whipped open midget.blend and then just adjusted the beetle to be the same size as the other car. Then had to redo all the textures, because it turned out you didn't have to increase the brightness for this one. It was worth it. I added a command that lets you check how many you've collected so far, and I was so relieved when I got this working, because I had to make sure it didn't just count the same car twice, which it did at first. But I figured it out and it ended up being very tedious. Remember at the start when I said I had to go through over 100 cars and change one thing? Well, this was one of those moments. I had to create a global variable for each car, and there was also a global variable for the total number of cars. Each car's variable starts off at 0, and it registers. If you place it while it's on 0, then it adds 1 to the collection, and changes the individual car variable so it doesn't happen again. Well, now I'd finished the base of the mod, so I just started adding random silly stuff. My personal favourite being this stunning piece of art. I also decided to add these sort of lucky block type things, because I made the empty boxes crafted out of paper, so it's just going to be annoying to get lots of them, but these crate things can drop a bunch of them, so you don't have to worry. Finally, let me show you the ores. So, the red and the blue ones will spawn anywhere underground. The red ones are the most common and the blue ones are the second, but the green ones only generate in the deep slate layer, so below Y level 0. As for the pink ones, aka the rarest ones, they only generate in the end. They're not locked behind the end, you can still craft them and find them in the crates. It's just once you get to the end, they become easier to get. If you want to play the mod, there'll be a link in the description. If you have any ideas for updates or anything, then let me know. And also let me know if there's anything blatantly wrong with it. I did test it a lot, but I am only one person, and there are a lot of things that might be possible to happen that didn't happen to me. Also, I put a lot of time and effort into this, so if you enjoy it and you appreciate it, then feel free to check out that Ko-Fi link on my channel. Well, feel a minimum of £1, but you get the idea.